On this episode of AV Week, we take a look at the power of edge devices and edge processing, also chip shortages throughout the AV industry. All that and more next on AV Week.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.
This is AV Week, episode 506, recorded Friday, April 30th, 2021. Certifiable.
Support for AVNation is brought to you by
Extron, industry-leading technology backed by world-class support.
And by Bodio, a leading manufacturer of professional PTZ cameras, Pro AV solutions, and UCC integration systems.
This is AV Week, your weekly wrap-up of audio-visual news and information. My name is Tim Albright. I am your host. With us to discuss the news and information we have gathered this week. First and foremost, Corey Schaefer from QSC. Welcome, ma'am.
Hey, good to be here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Also with us is Craig McCormick from Commercial Integrator Magazine. Welcome, sir.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Absolutely. And last but not least, my buddy and pal, Mr. Bradford Ben from Advisors. Welcome, sir.
Your pleasure to have me as always, Tim. Great to be here.
Absolutely. A couple of really quick notes. I was going to put this on as a conversation piece, and you guys are more than welcome to comment on it, but really just more top of news. Early this morning, we recorded this on Friday, April 30th. ISE, Integrated Systems Europe, announced that they were canceling 2 of their 4 locations in Europe, both in Germany and in the Netherlands, due to those countries' restrictions. So they're still doing one in Barcelona, still doing one in London. Also, earlier this week, this was my first business trip since COVID. I've got both my shots. I got to hang out with our friends over at Crestron and did a nice fireside chat with them. So you can go over to their website and Mitchell will put a link up to that. You can check that out as well. So first story, though, actually comes to us from our good friend, Mr. Craig McCormick, talking about the chip shortage. And actually, this is something a couple weeks ago that Chris Nadeau and the AV and the AM folks had some conversations about. A shortage in semiconductors and other materials is going to impact AV quite substantially here in the next couple of months. This is a couple of different things coming together, and Craig, will start with you on this. From my understanding, not only do you have the chip shortage, and that is directly correlated with COVID because you had people who were sick, factories shut down all over the world, and those folks are slowly but surely coming back together, but you had a lull in manufacturing, and you also have a lull and a backup in the ports, depending on what country you're in. Here in the States, we've got 2 main, and I say main, don't write me letters, I know that we have several ports, but our 2 main ports were one on the East Coast and one on the West Coast. You're talking about LA and New York, right? New York, New Jersey area. Craig, when you started going down this, and what did you discover about, not only just the causes, but when do we expect to get out of this?
Well, just to give credit, it was our associate editor, Zach Como, that wrote this feature story, and he did a lot of in-depth reporting, talking to distributors and some others within the channel. I don't know that there was any sort of deadline or kind of date that this is going to turn around, put on it anywhere. I don't know that anybody kind of wants to dip their toe into the water and kind of be held to a specific date where things are going to turn around. I think it's not going to end anytime soon, though. We're starting to see more vaccines and less cases of COVID. And, things are starting to normalize to some degree, but I still think it's going to be a while before everything gets caught up.
All right, Corey, from a manufacturing standpoint, when you look at things like shortages as well as backups and ports, how do you communicate that to your clients and to the end users as well?
So our ask is that we just have really great communication on both ends. So them to us and their need, and drop dead dates and timelines, and giving us as much visibility as possible. And we also are trying to give our partners as much visibility to availability. But it's a killer because at QSC we've announced many new solutions that require these. We all have had such a difficult year, and we want business to pick up, and we want to capitalize on that. And it's would say the supplier team inside QSC is just having multiple meetings a day with this, with the global sales team, just trying to juggle and balance inventory. And I'll tell you, we will stay loyal to those partners who have been really loyal to us. And although you've got new people coming in and wanting access because they're having trouble getting maybe from a partner they were loyal to, it's hard for us to make a quick switch. So we want the business, but first we need to be loyal to partners we've had established already. I can tell you, I have my other half has been dealing with shortages and back inventory, for well over a year in his product catalog. It's unfortunate because all day, every day, he's balancing back order and inventory and what's available, and it's really hurting the vision and long-term forecast. They can't even handle new orders, so it's going to be a rough 2021. We're all optimistic because we're coming out of COVID, and then now this, so trying to get back to business as usual is going to be some time for sure. But I think it comes with communication on customer side as well as the vendor side.
I'm going to ask a really, really unfair question, and I admit that before I ask you this, and you can just tell me no comment and we'll move on.
Okay.
When you do get product, how do you decide who gets it? Like, is it, and there's a reason I'm asking this. So if you've got an installation, let's say it's at the White House, right? And then you've got one at Bradford's house, right? But Bradford put his order in a month before the White House did. Does Bradford get it or does the White House get it?
So I'll say that I don't actually have to manage those within QSC, but what I can tell you, so that's a little bit of my out, Tim, but honestly, QSC is mostly loyal to the partners that have been loyal to us. So, small or large, high visibility, low visibility, it's kind of about these long-term relationships, and we still really lean on those, and it's really true. And so it's unfortunate to turn a project away because we definitely don't want to do that, but yet it's not worth risking a relationship that we've had for a long time that has been consistent over the years.
All right. Mr. Ben, you are in a unique position as usual, but you worked for a manufacturer for a number of years. You've been an integrator. Now you are a consultant. You've also worked as an end user. So from all of those perspectives, what does this do? If you were, take yourself back to your days as an end user, do you adjust? Do you start prioritizing, we don't really need this room, but we really need this one?
So there's a couple things we do. And I also want to point out, this isn't just Pro AV. This is residential. This is every market.
Automotive. Yeah.
I'm waiting for toothbrushes to be impacted because so many of them are Bluetooth now to make sure you brushed enough. But, it's across the board. And, it's a challenge. So for me as an end user, obviously the first thing we would look at is which has the most impact.
Yeah.
Of if I have a room that seats 25 or a room that seats 100 and they both need one amplifier, the room that seats 100, I'm going to probably prioritize that. But obviously if the room that seats 25 is my office or the president of the company's office, they're getting that amplifier. So there's that. The other thing is, as an end user, you have to talk with your integrators, and depending on the size of the project, you have to talk with your supplier and manufacturers to let them know what's coming down the pipeline. We went through this with the reduction of hazardous substances, or RoHS, years ago, and it's a pain. There's no other way to put it. But through the active communication, you can kind of manage it. And as Corey said, it is a balancing act of who gets stuff and who doesn't. But the other thing I tell people is, the farther out the better. But also, if you can avoid it, don't design to a single product, which I know some people don't like Corey, so I'm about to give Corey and QSC some credit here by the fact they virtualized their QSC cores. That is not as hardware dependent. But the same idea of, if you need a 300 watt amplifier or a 400, watt amplifier. QSC has like 20 models that'll do that. Might be exaggerating. So you define to that, not saying I need this specific model, because that gives you a better chance to get what you need. Now, obviously with speakers and DSP, sometimes it's a little more persnickety and has to be a little more precise, but it's the same kind of idea of design to have options. And it's a tough thing because loyalty is important. There are a lot of projects I couldn't have done when I was an integrator, even now as a transitioning end user to consultant, without the support of the manufacturers and the integrators. So it's all about open communication. But I'll also say, and this sounds weird, it's not unheard of to have these scheduling issues. When I was a product manager
To this
at
extent?
what? No, I'm about to tell you a story.
All right.
So Harman was releasing a new AVB product, and to get the AVB chips we needed was a 22-week lead time. So if you want to launch a product and then have inventory in stock and you have 22-week lead time, that becomes a huge thing. And then if you're like, oh, we can ship this to you by December 1st, you better order your products, 22 weeks before November 1st. And it becomes a juggling act. It's obviously impacting us because so many places have become just in time. They're only going to hold 5 things in stock in order because that's the better way to manage cash flow, etc. And that's kind of made this one harder than the transfer for Rojas, and also because it's hitting every manufacturer just as hard. But the big thing, sorry, go ahead, Corey.
I was just going to say, and the fact that, it's been a tough year with COVID. So people want and need the business, right? So, this is just not, this is just not an ideal. I don't think there's ever an ideal time, but this just makes it even more difficult.
So I want to bring up something, and all three of you feel free to chime in on this, and this is probably going to take us to where we only have 2 stories, which is fine. Does this situation warrant more localized manufacturing? And what I'm getting by that is yes, we all depend on China for chipsets, right? That's kind of what we do. And I'm not saying, we should bring manufacturing back or wherever. This is not a political statement. It's more of a supply chain question. Is it where have we gotten to the place where Bradford's right from a business standpoint, the just-in-time ordering, it makes complete sense for cash flow, and so you're not holding on to massive amounts of inventory. But that's assuming that we can get things in a timely manner. So do we think that it's going to start springing up more regionalized or localized technology manufacturing where chipsets and things of that nature are made in Europe, made in North America, South America, and in different parts of APAC?
I think a couple things. I think, it's not just in time manufacturing, just in time when you need the product, et cetera. The just in time kind of fits through the food chain. So I think there's, I think we're going to see more localized, if not manufacturing, certainly inventory. And I think every company's looking at crisis management, right? And how do we put, how do we spread things around the globe so that we can avoid things like this in the future? And I would, on this communication with the end user, the integrator, and the vendor, we have to have communication, because if a project gets pushed back, which they often do, allowing the manufacturer to know that to fulfill another customer order that might be more urgent would be, would help everyone, et cetera. So being able to have, really consistent dialogue and planning. But so I see regionalized manufacturing, regionalized inventory, and for us to rethink the critical parts. Maybe we don't just order them when the install happens, but we think a little bit further, a little more long term.
And I also think Corey's very right on that, but I also think there are others. Not saying there are other solutions because technology is bad, but I still remember solid state amplifiers that didn't have microprocessors in them. Yes, DSP gives us a lot of stuff, gives us a lot of amplifier management, but it also means you need to have the chips to do it. And maybe there are times replacing a smart amp with a less smart amp makes sense. And sometimes that comes down to, like you said, parts availability. But I do agree having chips manufactured in more places would definitely be helpful, especially for supply chain lead times. If you look at some of the large companies, they have a manufacturing facility in China that builds for Asia Pac Rim, a manufacturing facility in Europe that builds for EMEA, and then they have a manufacturing facility somewhere in the Western Hemisphere, whether it be North America or, US or Canada or Mexico, where they have a local facility to be able to get those parts faster, but also to ship the finished goods to people faster. So I think it's also going to be a little bit of a supply chain logistics issue. And, like you said, not trying to get political, but I do think one of the things that COVID has taught us is outsourcing as much stuff as we have to overseas has at times made a country less stable on its own. And it's not just the United States. It's India not being able to get enough vaccine, Canada not being able to get enough vaccine, all of those. So while the chip shortage is bad, it's emblematic of the overall global supply chain.
All right. Next story actually comes to us from AV Network. Taking a look at a brand new PanaCast line from Jabra. Really quickly, Jabra did purchase PanaCast about a year ago, and we've interviewed the folks that developed the PanaCast. Now, Jabra has come out with two brand new PanaCast cameras. One's called the 50, one's called the 20. Corey, I'm going to start with you on this. The reason I wanted to pick on this is because the thing about both of these, they are what I will refer to as edge processors or edge devices, right? The PanaCast 50, which is a big, ginormous one made for like conference rooms, it has 9 processors in it, right? That's what makes this sucker so incredible. I mean, and if you've never seen a PanaCast, it like has a 180-degree 180-degree field of view, and then it has AI built into it that'll allow it to kind of zoom in and focus on the one person, right, or the 2 people in the room. According to Jabra, it'll also do people counting and then report that back to the facilities. So if you have a limit on a conference room of like, let's say 6, and the system counts that there's 7, it'll alert the facilities, and they can walk in and say, find a bigger room for social distancing purposes. But Corey, are we going to see more and more of these kind of edge devices, edge processing devices that allow our AV systems to kind of, continue to evolve into more and more technologically advanced systems that allow things like AI to be incorporated into, our conference rooms and other corporate areas?
Yes, 100% yes. And, we're never going to go back to the way things were. And what's really cool about a solution like this that does a lot of things also automatically, end users want the systems to adapt to them, not them to adapt to the system. And that's what this is really doing. And, when we get on our hybrid meetings and we see people like in a very large space, like an all hands or a training room, the fact that these will go ahead and just zoom right into the person talking and giving equality to everyone in the square that we're looking at, right? Because today when we do a meeting and I have all of you on a square, but then one of the squares is actually a meeting room, it's distracting. It's hard because you've got a group of people in there and you're not really able to zoom in on that specific, well, I mean, you can zoom in on that specific person, but often it's you program the system to do that or you manually do that, but having the system just be smart enough to do it automatically, that's what people want. People want simple, and they want the system to just know what they want it to do before they have to ask it, and being able to have equality in these little squares on our computers as we look at them will be great. Having it automatically do the count and report up so we can do the analytics. Yes, we will see. I mean, that is what we're going to see. We're just going to see a ton of innovation here in the next 3 years. I'm convinced of it.
All right, Bradford, same kind of question. Don't break any NDAs.
I won't.
He's the one who taught me about NDAs. So, but give me kind of your take on this, and as you see more and more of the AV industry, evolving and incorporating more and more of the IT infrastructure and the IT philosophy. Several edge devices here, several edge devices throughout the IT infrastructure. What do you see coming down the pipeline?
So I think the several edge devices is going to continue because, for better or for worse, it gives each room more standalone. I'll use Corey's products just for ease of use. And they are a sponsor. I can do a project with a 110F or with a Core 500. Well, if I use three 110Fs or Core 500, and I'm probably using the wrong model number because it's been a little while, they're different prices and different features. But if I have a 110F for each room can still work on its own. And I don't have to worry about maintenance in one room impacting another. So I think pushing processing to the edges is going to continue. I think it also allows for incremental growth, which is good. We're going to put in 5 conference rooms. Now we're going to divide this one into 2. So I think edge devices are very powerful. The thing that interests me is twofold. One, I still use an owl because it has this technology. Put it in the center of a conference table and off you went. It was great. I also did a large meeting and we put in 3 pan and tilt zoom cameras that were manually controlled because it was able to do the speaker and the respondent, side by side. So there are some times that, manual control's good. The other thing is you can do this with different brands of hardware, not always just built into one. And the reason I'm pointing this out is not because PanaCast doesn't make a good product or Jabra doesn't make a good product. They do. It's a simple hang on the wall. But you can do mic arrays that are steerable, that talk to a pan tilt zoom camera, that does a zoom in and does the right mic processing and all of that. And I think it's giving the integrators more choices as they push more to the edge, because now you can do a room solution, not a building solution.
Makes sense.
One thing in that story also that I think is worth pointing out is at launch, they're also certified Teams and certified Zoom. So that's something also that you're just going to see as just, table stakes, that new products just get the certification on launch and rollout,
That actually is a good point, Corey, and that's where I was going with Craig. Craig, not only Jabra this week, but also, I mentioned the fact that I was at Crestron earlier. That's one of the things that they unveiled this week was a new Crestron phone, and that's Team certified coming out of the gate. Are you seeing more and more of that, or do you feel like you're seeing more and more UC and soft codecs things that are certified, straight out of on release, and why?
Absolutely, and I think we're going to see more of it, and it's a lot of what you guys have been talking about for the last few minutes. It's about making it simple for people, giving people what they want, ease of use, all that sort of thing.
Very good.
And I will agree with both Corey and Craig that the UC certified products are going to become table stakes, especially for work at home people. And also for small companies like Advisist. The headset I decided to buy, it had to be Microsoft Teams certified because I use Teams as my meeting platform and my phone system. So I think this is going to be a good move all around of the more certified items. I think a Poly 50 or a PanaCast 50 hung on my wall might be a bit much for just me in my office, but I can also see where, having smaller items that are Zoom certified or Team certified or Cisco certified is going to become more and more beneficial and prevalent as we move forward.
Well, quite frankly, it's the home office and the in office, because without the certification, they're just not going to work, right? Because it's about whitelisting and allow list on the Zoom Room PC or the Teams, PC. So we have to adapt if we want to be in those rooms.
Absolutely. And you're going to see more and more of that. In Bradford, if you don't want the 50, you can get the 20, which is literally the one I'm looking at because it's a lot less expensive and there's only 3 processors in it. So, anyhow.
Only 3 processors.
Yeah,
Amazing.
Only
Amazing,
3.
right?
So
This is why we have a shortage.
So exactly. So just really quickly, this is stupid, but 30 years ago, when I first started getting involved in AV and in television and production and radio, I ran a Sony M7 camera, right? Which is an old ENG. Sucker was
that was the one that was coal fired and had the crank on the side.
Yeah, it was coal fired, and there was probably one chip in there, maybe, right?
Right.
And now we're talking about a $200 or $300 device here that's about the size of a hockey puck, and it's got 3 processors that'll just kick the snot out of anything else. So
it's amazing, and the images are just I mean better than anything when you started in broadcast, Tim.
Oh,
it's amazing.
Absolutely. All right, y'all. Thank you so much. Corey Schaefer from QSC. Thank you, ma'am. How do people connect with you or QSC?
So QSC.com, Corey.Schaefer at QSC.com. You can find me on the Twitters, LinkedIn, etc. And I hope you connect with me. And thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
Great seeing you guys.
Good seeing you. Also, Mr. Bradford Ben. Thank you, sir. How do people connect with you or Advisist?
Advisist.com or Bradford Ben on the Twitters or Bradford Ben on the LinkedIn. Pretty much put Bradford Ben into a search engine. You'll usually get an interesting result. I recommend DuckDuckGo.
I will agree with that. You will get an interesting result. And that's all I'll say about that. Mr. McCormick, how do people connect with you or Commercial Integrator?
CommercialIntegrator.com or Craig McCormick or Com Integrator on Twitter.
All right. Thank you all so much. For us, for AVNation, go by our website, AVNation.tv. That's AVNation.tv. You'll find this program and a host of others. A couple things coming down the pipeline. First and foremost, we have an incredible event June 17th. We're partnering with the folks, our friends over at AVIXA, as well as SCN System Contractor News Magazine, to give you one great day of information looking at the future of the AV industry. Panels and keynotes and all kinds of great stuff, plus a virtual trade show floor. So you can check out that on our website, register for free, and check that out. Also, you can check out our weekly look at the residential industry with our buddy Matt Scott. All that and more at AVNation.tv. That's AVNation.tv. Thanks so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching. That's all the time we have for AV Week.